Hello, Voice of Women. My name is Sheila Warren. I am the head of blockchain, data, and digital assets at the World Economic Forum, and I'm based out of San Francisco, California, in the United States. I am a daughter. I am a mother of 3 young girls, 7, 4.5, and 1.5. I am a partner, and I happen to be the leader of a team that is 95% women. So you could say I have a stake in the empowerment of women, both in the United States and around the world. I began my career as a Wall Street lawyer, but I was always fascinated by and interested in philanthropy and in the notion of giving back to my community. In fact, prior to my Wall Street experience, I didn't have any other corporate experience. I had worked in nonprofits, I'd worked in domestic violence shelters, at museums, and I had been a lifelong volunteer. So changing over to philanthropy and nonprofit tech for me was a very natural transition. My years on Wall Street as an attorney taught me quite a bit about the way that big business operates, and that's knowledge that I've taken with me throughout my entire career. Now, Wall Street law, finance, and tech are often seen as men's domains or as being very male-dominated. As a woman, and certainly as a young lawyer, I certainly faced challenges in being taken seriously by clients and by superiors, but also in finding my own voice, in developing the confidence to battle things like imposter syndrome and to really reflect upon my own expertise and the skills that I brought to bear in every situation. When I unlocked that expertise, when I unlocked that confidence, it enabled me to be a better advocate for my clients as a lawyer, and when I left the law, an advocate for those who I feel I need to be a voice for around the world, including in my current position. At the World Economic Forum, I spend a lot of time in the global environment. I work with leaders from countries all around the world, from some of the strongest economies in the world, and from emerging economies. I think over the time I've been a professional, some 20 years now, I have seen significant changes in positioning of emerging economies and women in those developing countries or emerging economies as well. Part of this, I think, is led by technology. And the notion that if you have access to an internet connection and a will to learn, you can learn how to do things like code. There's a growing awareness of the importance of developing these kinds of skills. And they are often accessible, including to women in places where they can't get a traditional education. In fact, I have friends in war-torn countries who have developed coding schools specifically designed to enable women and girls to earn a livelihood. And those skills, as it turns out, are transferable all over the world. So from your kitchen table in an emerging economy, you can actually be working with a distributed team some halfway around the world, many, many, many miles away. There's a power and acceleration to the connectivity that a lot of us are experiencing and that is ever increasing. That means that what affects one of us affects all of us. That also means that we can empower citizens far away from our current geographies of where we actually reside in ways we never could 10 years ago, or I'd say even 5 years ago. It's probably not surprising as the head of blockchain digital assets, I am quite bullish on blockchain and its future impact. I do feel that blockchain is something that will soon become ubiquitous. Over the next decade or so, I think that many systems that today hook into centralized tech stacks or systems will actually have a connection into a blockchain. But I also think that we'll stop talking about blockchain in the world and society. It will be taken for granted as almost an invisible layer of technology that enables us to connect more powerfully with each other. I think we will see a fundamental shift in intermediaries or middlemen and the business models around such businesses that a blockchain will support, although it won't be the only reason that we see some of those systems begin to change. This pandemic, for example, has highlighted the inequity in society, an inequity we all were aware of, but which we can no longer ignore. And certainly the virus has shown us that if any of us are vulnerable and ill, that can spread very quickly to all parts of the population, and truly no one is immune and no one can escape. Digital currency is something that I feel very strongly and positively about. There is a perception that cryptocurrency specifically, and I'll specifically say Bitcoin, is something that is a danger to society, that it is used by criminals to conduct illicit activities. And there is no question that that is true. However, it is a very small piece of the overall picture. What cryptocurrencies can do is enable peer-to-peer engagement around money. Just like the internet enabled us to share content very quickly with people all over the world, seamlessly, frictionlessly, and at a fractional cost, the same thing can be true of money. And you can imagine a world in which we could engage in a direct, seamless transaction with any individual who had a digital wallet at any time in the world at any point in time, and what that might empower. Some things people are excited about, including me, are the concept of micropayments. Right now, it's just inefficient to send pennies using United States currency to anyone. It doesn't really make sense. But imagine if you could do that for free. Those pennies could quickly add up. And as I always tell my daughter, if you put the pennies in your piggy bank, someday you'll have $1, and that dollar can grow into more and more. I also think digital currency is going to change the way we think about intergenerational wealth transfer. There's no question that those who are coming of age today and entering the job market have very different opportunities than I had when I first entered the job market and joined Wall Street. There's much more uncertainty. There is much more anxiety. And of course, students today that come out of university are saddled with ever increasing and sometimes crushing debt loads. Digital currencies can provide a new investment vehicle for those who are entering the next phase of life, who are transitioning from being young adults into being householders. Maybe they're getting married and having children. We think we're going to be seeing new ways of harnessing and creating wealth that digital currencies and cryptocurrency and blockchain technology lead and drive. My view is that women are critical actors in reshaping and strengthening the economy. Part of what this pandemic has unleashed is an economic crisis that is unprecedented, not just in scope, but in the global nature of it. In the past, maybe one country would have a crisis, but we had others in the globe that could actually support and almost kind of buffer the downfall from that particular country. Now we're faced with a global crisis, a global economic crisis of which we have not seen in our lifetimes. We already know that women are the prime drivers on economic decisions in households. That is true regardless of economy and regardless of social status or income level. Women are the primary consumers. Women make decisions about education. All of these things are true and are universally true. So there is no question that as we begin to crawl out of this economic crisis, women are going to be critical drivers in helping to grow the economy. I am concerned about reports that women are beginning to leave the economy in droves. In part, this is because of the lack of childcare options in certain countries. Here I point to the United States, which is my own experience. Well, governments don't support these kinds of issues, paid family leave, childcare, universal preschool, and other kinds of issues, women far too often bear the brunt of it. And what that means, if women leave the economy, is not only are we losing out on their creativity and their capacity and what they've built over their careers, we're also losing role models for the next generation. I think one of the worst things that could happen would be that we'd be set back about 50 years to a time when the economy and jobs were dominated by men. That is certainly true in some industries, and it's certainly true at the top of many industries. But overall, women are gainfully employed throughout the world as a general matter. This crisis challenges all of that. I think a lot about access of women of color, of women at lower income levels, disadvantaged women, to education, to healthcare, and other kinds of opportunities. There is no question as a society we are deeply stratified. There are the haves and have-nots, as they're sometimes termed, and certainly we've seen that even in this pandemic, the top companies and top earners and wealthy people in this world have made orders of magnitude more money at the same time as we're seeing people lose their jobs, lose their health care, and in some cases lose their homes. This is an unfair setup for society, and it is not sustainable. It particularly falls, this burden, upon single mothers of color. Again, in the United States, single mothers are predominantly women of color who are lower income. That is not universally the case, but those are the statistics. And so, for a single mother who is working multiple jobs in some cases, or even not, to lose her job is a very different proposition than for a dual income household. Part of the work that I do, both in my role, formal role, professional role, and through board service, is focused on opportunities here. And one thing I look at very clearly is, where can the law be a tool that can help enforce equality? And where might bias be playing a role? I look a lot at implicit bias, which is the set of prejudices that we all bring to the table, the set of assumptions based largely on how we were raised that enable us to make decisions about things and to create stereotypes that help us create a quick frame around the things that we think are important or the ways in which we think we are being inclusive when perhaps we are not being such. In the tech industry, we've seen examples specifically of what it looks like when you have a team comprised of one demographic building products. They simply don't reflect the realities of most of the world. We see this also in healthcare, where a lot of medication, dosages, vaccines, and other tests and treatment plans are based on a certain demographic, middle-aged white men. As a woman who is entering a time in my life when healthcare is becoming more of a concern, and I have to pay more attention to that than I did when I was just out of college, I find this very troubling, and I think that all of us should find it troubling. We simply have to take advantage of data that exists and ensure it's factored into whether it's customized treatment plans or whether it is a more holistic view of our society and how we can equally treat and take care of the members in it. This is the reason why we say representation matters. It matters at every level. It matters in the political sphere, it matters in the technology sphere, in the academic sphere, in every sphere you can think of. It's deeply, deeply important to ensure a diversity of voices and perspectives are always considered. This is one of the reasons I'm so proud and grateful to work at the World Economic Forum, because part of what we do is create multi-stakeholder communities that are designed specifically to not favor one voice over another. Our communities are very large, they take a lot of time to build, and achieving consensus can be quite challenging. But we feel it's extraordinarily important to surface tensions that exist, whether between economies, maybe they're competitors, but also bringing together civil society, the academy, the public sector, and private sector to think about giant global problems. Only then can we craft effective solutions. The best way to empower women is to give them opportunity. I was asked at one point how one goes about finding and sourcing and getting more women into positions, in technology. And my answer, without meaning to be trite, is just hire them. There's no question that women exist who are qualified for almost every position you could imagine. It's a matter of how much effort you're putting into finding them and how important that is to you. Now, I will say, in my case, it just so happened that the best candidates who applied for my open positions have been women, and I therefore hired simply the best candidate I got for the job. But I think it's also important in situations where candidates are not applying for whatever reason to ensure that you have pipelines to create those opportunities, to make people of color, to make lower income people, those who didn't graduate from elite institutions, aware of opportunities. And once they're included on a team, to ensure you have a culture of inclusion. Are you mentoring? Are you training these women and these other people to ensure that they have success within the role and within the organization? How do you think about promotion? Whether that's a tenure track at the academy, whether it's a promotion cycle into the C-suite in a business. What is the path you're laying forward for people? Numbers are not enough. Getting people in the door is not enough. You then have to create an environment where they are comfortable taking risks, making mistakes so that they can learn. It's something I try to do very hard on my teams. I would encourage all young women to think big, to dream hard, and to really ensure that you're following your curiosity. I've had a very varied career over my life. I've been a lawyer, I've been a product builder, I've been in philanthropy, I now work in blockchain technology. And if you'd asked me at any point in time, the previous 3 years, if I thought I'd be doing what I was doing, I didn't even know what I was doing existed. But what I did was followed my curiosity, because your curiosity indicates where your passion is. And your passion is where you're going to be willing to put in the hours and hours and hours of sweat and hard work it takes to excel. So be true to curiosity, check in with yourself, and I wish you all the very best.